So much can change over the Easter weekend, and Friday did not disappoint. We're back for the quick turnaround today, guys, to go ahead and predict the fixtures in the Championship that we've got coming up on the Monday. Once again, some cracking fixtures, and we will be discussing all of the action that went on yesterday throughout today's video. I want to get your verdict on everything down below, and do leave your score predictions as well. But without any further ado, let's jump into these matches. And what again, we have to start out with Huddersfield against Blackburn. A few weeks ago, predicting this fixture, I think everyone would have been heavy on Blackburn, but the script has flipped for both sides recently. And for Rovers' point of view, that's now 3 defeats from their last 4 matches. We spoke about the importance of that game on Friday against Norwich, and yeah, it's worrying times for Blackburn, who have been in a similar situation towards the tail end of the season before, having a top 6 place to protect, and just sort of losing it over those final few hurdles. A few people will point to that game in hand they still have, but let's remember that that game is against Burnley, so by no means is a game we expect Blackburn to win. And this one away at Huddersfield is suddenly a really tough game. It was another fantastic win for them on the road under Neil Warnock. That's now 3 consecutive wins, all against promotion chasers. They're out of the bottom 3 for the first time since August. And looking at the Championship form table, since Warnock took over at Huddersfield, Huddersfield are 10th in the table, which speaks to the consistency they're playing at this point in time. Rovers really need the win here, but Huddersfield are riding the crest of a wave, and a score prediction, I'm going to back them again. 2-1 Huddersfield to make it 4 wins on the bounce. Next then to Birmingham up against Stoke. It was a draw for Birmingham on Friday, 1-1 between them and Reading. Thought that one would be quite a tightly contested one, and Birmingham probably could have gone for it a little bit more in the second half, but in the end they were happy to settle for the point. That sees them on 49 points now. And do you know what, despite the brilliant run that Stoke have been on previously, Blues are now just 2 points behind this Stoke side, who didn't have the best of Fridays in the end. Seemed like a real game of 2 halves against Bristol City, where it was more of the same from that Stoke squad in the first half. Looked quite comfortable having that 1-goal lead, and whether or not it was a little bit of complacency, the wrong subs being made in the second half, but a massive fall off in terms of the overall momentum. And then Bristol City hit them with 2 late goals to seal that one up, and their first defeat in quite a while. This one, don't expect there to be that much in it. Birmingham games, a lot of them have been quite tight recently, and whether or not we'll see the first half of Stoke on Friday or the second half of them turning up in this one, it remains to be seen. Score prediction there, I think I'm going to play it safe and go for a 1-1er. Don't think there'll be too much in it. Next then to Cardiff up against Sunderland. It was a big result for Cardiff on Friday. We spoke about the importance of putting in a performance in a relegation 6-pointer against Blackpool after the misery of the South Wales derby, and they did do that, to be fair. They took the game away from Blackpool in the first half, then saw it out in the second half with a professional performance. This one against Sunderland, I'm actually quite looking forward to now, with Sunderland playing out that bonkers 4-4 draw with Hull on Friday. We got to see both the good and bad of Sunderland in that game. At their best, they're capable of being a ferocious attacking side, and in the second half especially, I thought we saw some cracking football in the final third, but really let down by some shoddy defending, particularly with the way the goals came about. I mean, considering with the last kick of the game from that penalty, and it was a little bit of a hammer blow to Sunderland, really, who could have made some ground up on the top 6 with sides above them dropping points. Didn't actually realise just how much Sunderland's form recently has tailed off. It's now just 1 win from their last 9 Championship matches, so they're sort of in limbo. I feel like a top 6 charge will probably be a little bit too late at this stage, and with Cardiff bang up for this one, with survival very much still to play for, I think I'm back in the home side in this one, you know. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Cardiff, and for Sabri Lamucci to get one over on Tony Mowbray there. Next then to Coventry up against Watford. It really does feel like, from Watford's perspective, we've just seen their season go up in smoke over these last 2 matches since the return to action from the international break. Dismal stuff against Luton, and followed up with another really shoddy performance at home against Huddersfield, losing that one 3-2 in the end. Seen the reaction from the Watford fans in the ground at full time, and it just seems like a toxic environment at the moment. Chris Wilder hasn't been able to get any sort of tune out of this squad, and I mean, the Backman red card at the end of that game and everyone sort of losing their heads just sums up where that team is at the moment. In terms of Coventry, it's also not been a great return to action for them either, just 1 point to show from their last 2 matches, but the positives to look at it, they're still just 3 points off the top 6, and I think they're the overwhelming favourites in this game. They had that goalless draw on Friday against Swansea. had chances in that game, and I think the positives to look at it, it's back to sort of grinding out those clean sheets after how they were cut apart with that game against Stoke. Score prediction here, I think I have to fancy Coventry 2-0. I'm saying for this one, I think they're the better side at the moment. Then to Hull against Millwall. Millwall's game against Luton, tight as we expected, a goalless draw at the Den, but the opposite could be said about Hull against Sunderland. I thought their game would be fairly low scoring, as most of them have been with Rossini in there so far. Seems like it's been defensive planning first, then thinking about their forward line, but what a game in the end, and fair play for Hull for getting back into that one late on. They were right up against it with the attacking play of Sunderland, Diallo and Clark especially causing them all sorts of problems, but kept finding a way back into that game, and with the last kick of the game, Ozan Tufan with a real pressured penalty, but sticks it away expertly into the bottom corner. Not sure I can see this one being an 8-goal thrill. I think Millwall will look to take the sting out of this one and nullify Hull's threats going forward, and I certainly think that Millwall will put up a better defence than Sunderland did on Friday. With that being said, anything's possible for those sides in mid-table at the moment. There's not really anything to lose, and I thought we saw a little bit of that from Hull with their performance against Sunderland. Having said that, does feel like a game where Millwall need to win, really. I think after drawing against Luton, 4 points from this Easter weekend would represent a decent bank holiday. If they were to draw again and drop another 2 points, suddenly gets a little bit more nervy with the sides looking to catch them up in, you know, Norwich and Preston alike at the moment. So score prediction here, I think I'm just going to edge Millwall for a tight 2-1 away victory, but don't think there'll be too much in it. Next then to Luton up against Blackpool. I think that Luton game on Friday against Millwall was just as tightly contested as a lot of us had predicted. Goalless in the end, and potentially a bit of a flash forward into what could be a Championship playoff semi-final to come. Certainly wouldn't be surprised to see those two facing off against each other. This though, back to Kenilworth Road, I feel like is a fantastic opportunity for Luton to get some goals back in their squad and some wind under their sails as well. Blackpool, it just feels are in absolute free fall at the moment. They were going to go one of two ways with that game against Cardiff after the disastrous performance against Preston. They were either going to get some sort of bounce or everything was going to fall in on itself, and in the end it was the latter. McCarthy, it just seems tactically setting up Blackpool needs a half to figure out what's going on before he can then implement changes, and we see a little bit of an improvement from them in the second half. But Cardiff took that game away from Blackpool in the first 45 minutes, and I think that Luton will do something similar in this one. Get up in their faces, score a couple of early goals, and from that point you can just see the confidence draining from this Blackpool squad. Score prediction here, I'm going 4-0 Luton. I really think it could be that bad for Blackpool. Norwich against Rotherham, to be honest, it was two brilliant results for these sides on Friday. Norwich getting back to winning ways against Blackburn in what was a real crunch match for them. We spoke about the significance of that game in the preview to the Blackburn game, and they showed up. And we all know, at their best, under Wagner, this Norwich side can be really good. Some of the goals they scored, I mean the Sarah goal in particular, brilliant run from Hernandez and layoff from him, and a smashing finish. And yeah, to close the gap on Blackburn and the top six was pivotal, because coming into that game, Norwich had been on a bit of a disastrous run, really. We have had these false dawns with them in the past. We all thought that they'd go on a little bit of a run after beating Millwall away, and they followed it up with some really quite inconsistent results against sides that, you know, quote unquote, they probably should have been beaten. And this is a potential banana skin, because it was a really spirited performance from Rotherham on Friday. Jordan Hugill starring against his former club with a brace in that one, and will he come up with the goods to damage one of his former sides in this one in Norwich as well? Don't think there'll be much in it, but I'm just going to side with the quality of Norwich here. But we have had those false dawns with them in the past. Score prediction, going to go 2-1 Norwich. I was impressed with what I saw from Rotherham on Friday. Add that to Preston against Reading, and Preston continuing to churn out the results. Another really positive performance on Friday, and suddenly the playoffs is looking like a possibility, especially if we pick up all 3 points in this one against Reading. Up against the Reading side, who are now in the bottom three, following that draw against Birmingham and Huddersfield winning once again. They have been the side to drop in, and that 6-point deduction could turn out to be absolutely brutal in the end. From Reading's point of view, I mean, we spoke about all the sides in the bottom three at the moment. Draws aren't enough, they need wins on the board, and to be honest, there always seems to be something in the water when Reading play Preston. I know we beat them in the reverse fixture earlier in the season, but in recent history Reading have definitely had the better of this fixture, and they have been somewhat of a bogey side for us recently. So for as good as Preston have been recently, it would be typical of us to throw it all away in the game against Reading. But really like what I saw from Preston in that game against QPR. Thought we handled their threats very well and had, you know, more than adequate chances going forward. And Tom Cannon is just the man in form at the moment. Another brace against QPR on Friday, and if we make it 6 points over this Easter weekend, I'll really be fancying our chances maybe for a late stab at the top 6. Score prediction in this one, I'm going to be confident and back a North End 2-0 win, but Reading always a little bit unpredictable when playing Preston. Then to the Hawthorns for West Brom against QPR. I couldn't believe how much West Brom's levels actually dropped against Rotherham. Really worrying performance, weren't up for the battle. Jordan Hugo getting the better of them, typically so against his former club, and yeah, their playoff hopes really starting to slip away. That's now 3 games without a win for the Baggies. However, if there's one team you want to be playing in the Championship right now, I think that team's QPR. Having watched their game against North End, I mean, this team is in absolute free fall at the moment, and don't get me wrong, there were moments when they had chances, but I never felt like that result was really in threat as soon as North End got the first goal and we went 1-0 up. At 0-0, QPR had a very good chance, Chair running through on goal. Totally sort of misfires, sends that one wide of the post, and it just seems like there's no confidence in any part of this squad at the moment. The reaction from the fans at full time was negative, as you'd expect. It just feels like that growing toxic atmosphere is hurtling them towards League One. I really can't see where the next points are coming from, because for however bad West Brom were, and they you know, weren't up for the battle in that game against Rotherham, I see them getting past this QPR side with relative ease at the moment, and that is the worst thing you could label at any club, really, not being up for the fight in those sorts of moments. And I thought that was the case in the second half against Preston. Score prediction here, going to go 2-0 West Brom to maybe get their top 6 hopes back alive. Then to Wigan against Swansea. With this Wigan side at the moment, I don't think you can question the commitment and determination of this group of players, but the quality just isn't there, I don't think. It was another narrow defeat for them on Friday against Sheffield United, conceding early on and still trying to battle and get back into it, but ultimately only accumulating 1 shot on target, and that's been the overriding story of their season so far, really, particularly under Maloney. Up against the Swansea side, who have now hit 50 points for the season, so I think that we may start to see a few of those Championship clubs in that region of the table with 50 points upwards who don't have a chance of making it into the top 6, starting to head towards the beach perhaps. It was a decent result for Swansea, to be fair, a draw against Coventry, and we have seen a general uptrend from them in terms of overall performances. Don't think there's going to be a hell of a lot in this one. Whether or not the quality of Swansea can win it or the determination of Wigan, I think I'm going to settle on the draw, you know. 1-1, I'm saying, between these two in this game. We then go to Bristol City up against Middlesbrough, and this is actually the first time under Michael Carrick that Middlesbrough have lost back-to-back league matches. It was always going to be a tough ask against a very good Burnley side who were gunning promotion on the Friday night, and despite putting up a good fight, it was Burnley who had that extra bit of quality in the end. How do I see this one going? Well, Bristol City are coming off the back of a decent result themselves. It was quite the game of two halves, like we mentioned previously when discussing Stoke, but Bristol City turned things around with 2 moments of quality in that second half. How do I see this one going? Middlesbrough have been very good at their bounce back ability under Michael Carrick. It is seeming like it will be playoffs right now, with the gap standing at what it is and Sheffield United still having that game in hand, but I do see Middlesbrough getting back to winning ways in this one, I think. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 2-1 Middlesbrough. And then to round things off with Burnley up against Sheffield United, and a massive congratulations is in line for Burnley, who have been promoted to the Premier League. Let's be honest, it has been a long time coming, but to seal it away at Middlesbrough, it looked like absolute scenes in that away end, and I'm sure that that experience for Burnley fans was absolutely fantastic to see. This will be the homecoming against Sheffield United, and could turn out to be a cracker of a match. Sheffield United have got their flow back. It was a win for them on Friday, 3 in a row now for them. Obviously that win, narrowly so, against Wigan. 1-0 was enough for them in the end. And let's not forget, Sheffield United, one of the few sides to actually beat Burnley this season. The game at Bramall Lane earlier on in the season was an absolute cracker. Whether or not Burnley will take their foot off the gas will be interesting to see over these next few matches. We certainly saw that with Fulham last season, who had just walked the Championship, but by the time they sort of got themselves over the line, they did ease up a little bit. Do have the feeling that with this Burnley squad, and under Vincent Kompany especially, the mentality he's drilled into that group, it will be a little bit different. I feel like there'll be a sort of party atmosphere around Turf Moor, but they want the title and potentially, obviously, to set a point record as well. So score prediction in this one, I can't see past Burnley, I don't think. Whether or not the players have been on the beers or not, that may affect things, but score prediction in that one, I'm going to go 2-1 Burnley. Well guys, there we have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Quick turnaround in terms of the fixtures at the moment, but very much looking forward to the games we've got coming on Monday. As always, if you did go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Get your predictions down below, but apart from that, I'll see you all in the next one.